Khalid Saeed over here with Adam Smith. How you doing today, Adam? You okay?
I'm good, Khaled. How are you? You well?
Oh, can't complain, can't complain. So what did you make of today's weigh-ins? It was a bit tasty.
It was tasty at the draw. It was fiery today. What I liked about it, actually, they're all good matches. And the first sort of head-to-head, we had a lot of mouthing. The second head-to-head, we had huge respect between Ben Fields and Tom Farrell.
Of course.
The next one, we had the push.
Oh, yes, we did.
And then we had the bonkers Mashadod sort of lift up, and so everything was different. And I was actually on one side of the stage, and all the four to the right were losing the plot, and all the four to the left were all cool and calm.
Yeah.
Who's going to come through? We don't know. That's the beauty of this. It's a fantastic idea. The boxer tournament, 8 of them starting out, only one at the end of the night. It's hopefully going to be fun, fast, furious. Bit of knockout action during it, and let's see who prevails. It's going to be great.
Because I was behind, and I think it was the Bennett and the Gardner fight that was, well, the weigh-in over there. There was this, I don't know whether you could hear from the commotion on the back rows, there was his brother going on a mad one, and all his fans were going crazy.
I spoke to Nathan yesterday, actually, and he was sort of really up for this. And then when the draw happened, it was the fight that he was waiting for, and I think he'd been on and off 3 times. And I thought, we're going to see some real, and we had the fiery sort of head-to-head yesterday. And then I spoke to Kane today, and I said, look, what do you expect? And he said, look, this is a fight we've wanted for ages. So I think they both, there's just the sort of the fact that they're finally fighting, and it's the first one out, and they got it. I think that just adds to the drama.
Are you a fan of domestic scraps?
Of course, I love domestic scraps. I think probably some of my favourite fights have been the best, Lonsdale belt battles, Jamie Moore and Matthew Macklin, Alex Arthur and Michael Gomez, 2 of my favourite fights of all time. I don't know if you've seen the Scott Dixon, Derek Roach fight from years ago. There was about 6 or 7 knockdowns in that. I love domestic fights. That's at probably British level. You come down, you get the English, the Central Area title, some of the Southern Area battles. I was actually doing the Southern Area fight between Leon McKenzie and Cello Render. For Leon's got a film documentary coming out, and we were doing the commentary on that, and that was unbelievable. And the Southern Area fight where Spencer Oliver fought Patrick Mullings. Loads of great fights at domestic and area level. And on a weekend where we've got the undisputed super middleweight title fight with Canelo and Caleb Plant, it's always good to look at boxing at different levels, as long as the matches are good. That's why when people say to me, why did we do the YouTube fight? Well, KSI and Logan Paul, yeah, they're not great, but they fought and they were about the same standard. So fine, put them in the ring. When they're not the same standard, that's when it's different. But when they're matched well, which these 8 are, great. We're going to have some tasty tear-ups.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. Speaking about YouTube fights, we have got Tommy Fury coming up against Jake Paul. What do you make of that?
I mean, the bandwagon rolls on, doesn't it? I mean, when was it when originally Joe Weller and KSI fought? It was the same night as Isaac Chamberlain and Lawrence Okoli. So we had a big show at the O2.
That was very tasty.
We had a big show at the O2 with a huge build-up and whatever, and it was all about Okoli and Chamberlain. My son, who's now 14, I think he was about 9 or 10 at the time, I was saying to him beforehand, I said, is Okoli going to win or Chamberlain? And he didn't know what I was talking about. He said, well, KSI's fighting tonight. And I was like, I said, Oscar, who's KSI? He said, well, who's KSI? I said, yeah. He said, look, 4 million, subscribe, all that. And that's when I took note. And I think, listen, it's entertainment. It's great. We had great fun with Logan and KSI, and I think at that level, listen, Tommy Fury's a fighter, and Jake Paul is becoming a fighter. Look, I think Jake's good, and I think Tommy and Jake it'll be an interesting fight, and look, people will watch it, and that's what it is. It's entertainment, and that's what we want.
Of course. So I know you've probably been talking about a lot of AJ stuff regardless anyway, but here's the thing. What we want to know is he right for looking around for a new trainer to build his career up to that next step? Tyson Fury did it, and there's a lot of other fighters that have done that and gone to the next step initially. And do you think it's right for him to?
I think each fighter and each individual is different. I think Anthony has been shown how much he's worked under and loved working under Rob McCracken for so long. If he's talking about going back to sort of basics a little bit, which I think he is, then I'd be surprised if he moved away from Rob, because that's what got him there in the first place. He might just want some other opinions. He's gone out to America. He's having a little look around. It might just be that he just wants to sort of take that in as a sponge. He says he loves taking in information. Don't know. I mean, it's up to him. And I've seen Lennox Lewis For example, he was with Pepe Carrera for many years, and then Emmanuel Stewart trained Oliver McCall. He knocked out Lewis, and Lennox jumped to Emmanuel Stewart, and then rebuilt with Emmanuel. But Harold Knight was there from the very beginning and all the way through. He doesn't get the credit that he deserves. Harold and Emmanuel worked very closely, but Harold was there from day one till the finish. So I'd be very surprised if Rob wasn't there from day one to the finish in some way. It's just how that works, because after the Ruiz defeat, he brought in Joby and he brought in Angel. Will they stay? Will he look to maybe bring in an American voice? Will he not? I don't know. You have to ask Anthony that. Should he? It's up to the individual. What Anthony is a very competitive individual. He's competitive at everything he does. I know that on the chessboard. But he is.
He beat you a couple
but he is. You know, he will. He wants to be. He wants to be the best at everything he does, but he wants to learn and challenge himself. He didn't have to, fight Andy Ruiz straight away again. He could have taken an easier route. He could have taken an easier route after Alexander Usyk. He's not. He's going back into the fire. And I think that's where we should respect AJ, because not only is he a two-time heavyweight champion, and he's been unbelievable for boxing. I mean, nobody in the last 10 years has done more in a global way than AJ, and as an ambassador for us, as a role model for the kids. Everybody loves AJ and loves his fights. And whereas Tyson Fury now is seen, and quite rightly so, as the number one heavyweight in the world, and has got a huge fan base, built up with Tyson, and what he's done has been incredible, going through the traumas of his life. But Anthony is also, he's a tough individual, and he had that loss to Ruiz, and he's had another loss, and in many ways a more difficult one to come back from with Usyk because of the way it happened. He's going straight back in with one of the pound for pound best. You've got to take your hat off to Anthony, and it's up to him who he wants to guide him through that, and I'm sure he'll make the right decision for him. But I'd be very surprised if Rob went anywhere, because Rob has been the general that has masterminded the whole thing. Now maybe there needs to be changes, or what he did after Ruiz was he brought people in, so maybe he'll look to do that and just play around with it a bit, but ultimately he'll need one voice to tell him, I think.
What's the scores between you and AJ at chess right now? Where are we standing? What's the standing?
No, we've not played enough. We've not played enough. He was beating me, and I got the better of him last time. But no, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to play more.
So what's the scores then?
We
you don't want to mention the scores.
He's a good player. He's getting better, actually. Well, actually, I played him a little bit. We did a promotional shoot at Sky many years ago. I played Lennox at chess, and I tell you, he's quite good. He's Regis Prograis. Okay. Chess and boxing go together. There's a lot of similarities in a way. But the thing is, it's the competitive element. And I'm okay. I used to play quite a lot, and then I don't play, and then whatever. But I enjoyed playing with Lennox, and he could play chess, and Klitschko's play, and Manny Pacquiao's a very good chess player. So yeah, but AJ, I think he just got into it, and he plays more online chess, whereas I like a game with a board I can see the pieces. I'm terrible on the computers and stuff. So, but yeah, I'm sure we'll play again, and hopefully when he re-signs with Sky, we'll play lots more.
Oh, did you hear that, Anthony?
Hopefully.
But here's the thing, though. Back to boxing, in terms of, were you shocked the way he came out for the Usyk fight at that point? Were you amused? Were you thinking, what is going on here? Is he going to change his ways, or?
I actually wasn't, because I've been up to Sheffield a couple of weeks before, and I watched sparring, and he was trying things out, and I just think that they thought that he'd improved as a boxer so much since the Ruiz defeat. He was very good against Ruiz in the rematch. He was very, very good against Pulev. And I think they thought that the boxing would work. Now, whether AJ thought he could outbox Alexander, or whether the team thought that, obviously that was wrong. And he should have mixed it up. He should have thrown combinations. He certainly should have thrown caution to the wind, obviously, earlier. But he was beaten, and he was outclassed by a very, very good southpaw, a wonderful rhythmic fighter. And I think Alexander, in the first 30 seconds of the fight, really shocked AJ, and I think that he had round 5 and round 6. I gave AJ, and then the 7th he came out Usyk, and he just took control again. And I don't know. I think he was sort of caught betwixt and between. I think mentally he wasn't quite sure about the way when it was actually happening to go about the job. And look, he got beaten. The wrong tactics or whatever. He lost. No disgrace in that. He's got to sort of come back to the drawing board and try and get it right next time. But I think it's a harder rematch than the Andy Ruiz one, because Usyk is a special fighter. So and I think Usyk will come on as well. So it's dangerous, but that's what AJ's about. He loves the competition.
Would you prefer? Because I was watching a few AJ fights from quite a while ago, but I'm talking about the Dylan White fight, even the Klitschko fight. It felt like he was a different fighter, maybe because of the type of fight he was fighting. But it was, I think, when he talks about his old school ways or his basic ways, is he talking about that type of way with them fights?
I think he's talking about what he did with Dillian White, you know, back then, you know, that he's gonna almost take it almost like a street fight in a way. I think he's probably got to do that with Alexander because Alexander is such a brilliant fighter, a boxer who's had 350 amateur bouts, never lost as a pro. He's dealt with everyone. You know, I think the Derek Chisora thing was a bit of a red herring because Derek's a very different fighter to Anthony, and you know maybe he needed a little bit more time to develop as a heavyweight, but size didn't matter at all. It came down to boxing ability, and I think that AJ was, you know, he's a very good boxer, but Usyk is a master boxer, and I think AJ's got to take it back to what he's best at, and whether that's good enough, we'll find out in the spring. We can't wait.
So, well, last question for me.
Sure.
You mentioned about AJ turning boxing back to where it was meant to be in terms of being great again in England, bringing the 90,000 people into the stands. Who is the next guy coming up, or the next person that's coming up? That's the question I need to know.
That's the first time anyone's asked me that in a long time. Who's the next guy to replace? I don't know whether AJ is replaceable for a while. You know, boxing is cyclical. It goes in cycles. You know, there will be others. Ricky Hatton started and it just snowballed into something quite extraordinary, for example. You know, Carl Froch and George Groves, yeah, that was meant to be an easy defence for Carl Froch, and because of what happened and the ringside show and the sort of edginess between them and the fact they hated each other, that became a huge story. So I think it's about stories, it's about characters. I think that place is sort of open. I wonder whether it would be a Joshua Buatsi or a Josh Kelly 2 or 3 years ago, whether they'd come and replace that. It could be the women, you know. Katie Taylor is having a phenomenal run. Savannah Marshall now and Clarissa Shields is a great story. You look at that and there's still fights. Calm Brook, will that be made? And there's other things and what will happen with